Well, in my case, well, in my case, don't quite be who you are. So we'll just go with that.
Well, hello, and welcome to this inaugural podcast for the Mighty Underdogs. And so you might ask the question, so what is Mighty Underdogs? Well, we're going to introduce you to the Mighty Underdogs. We are all CEOs of small, closely held enterprises, small businesses, essentially. We're all entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, compulsive entrepreneurs, however you want to describe it. But we are a community of business owners who are committed to helping other small business owners who are already in business. And so what I would like to do, first of all, is introduce the Mighty Underdogs. And so I'd like to start with the ladies. So Donna, if I could start with you, why don't you introduce yourself, say who you are, what your company is, and what role you play in Mighty Underdogs.
Great, thank you, Armando. Happy to. I'm Donna Hover Ojeda, and I am CEO of Leaders Laboratory, who works with, I do growth strategies and grow companies that are 100 million to 500 million in revenue and have multiple products, multiple businesses and divisions. And here to help with Mighty Underdogs, I play the CEO role and work with the others to create products and services just for our other small businesses. Next, I'd like to pass it to Luisa.
Hi, this is Luisa Recchia, and I am the Executive Director of Recchia & Associates. We provide coaching services to small business owners and entrepreneurs. I do that through independent work out of the John Maxwell team, bringing in leadership to our small business owners and entrepreneurs, as well as operating systems that we like to work with our teams and implement into their organizations. So we like to help small business owners and entrepreneurs who want to grow their business.
Right. Tom, why don't you go next?
Sure. I'm Tom Nixon. I am a content creator, as you might guess from my background here. My first love is music, but unfortunately it's tough shakes making a career out of that. So I put an English degree to use, and I'm now chiefly a content creator for small business owners and business professionals who are looking to convert their subject matter expertise into thought leadership that drives inbound business development leads. Name of my company is The Creative Mill. And with the Mighty Underdogs, I serve on the board of directors in an advisory capacity. Back to you, Armando.
Well, Mark, why don't you go next and I'll go last.
There you go. Well, hi, I'm Mark Trail, and proud to be a part of the Mighty Underdogs Club. As you can see behind me, the company that I'm representing today is a franchise for Care Patrol up here in Macomb County, Michigan. It's a franchise that I picked up just this year. So it's a brand new startup for me. We help senior citizens that are transitioning from home into another living environment, whether it's because they want that leisure retirement lifestyle, or they have a life event that needs to put them in a place where they can be safely taken care of and flourish in a new environment. And I help them and I help the family define what's best for them and how to make that transition into it. And then we go out and get it done. Some of the other things that I'm really happy to be involved in, which is really a good part of the Mighty Underdogs, is I've just started a nonprofit called the Slice of Home Project, which we'll be hearing more about with our Mighty Underdogs family that we're working on. So that's one of the things that's already part of what we're doing. I'm just really happy to be a part of a community of individuals that are making their lives happen, and they're sharing it with others and hoping others share with them along that route. So good to be here.
Great. Well, thank you very much. And what role do you play with Mighty Underdogs?
I am hope to get to be a little bit of everything. I'm whatever Donna says I am. Darn it! No.
Don't you do your pitch practice for us, right? The
Yes, you do.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. We do the monthly bullpen right now, which is a pitch practice for people to come in and really perfect that pitch with an eye on the type of audience that they're going to be presenting it to. And one of the founding members and directors of Mighty Underdogs, and also act in conjunction with Donna on the treasury component of what we do.
Terrific. Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you all. My name is Armando Ojeda. I'm the CEO and president of Marvel Earth Management. It is what I call a lifetime business because everyone generates waste. So we are not a lifestyle, but a lifetime business. And so we work with middle market companies. These are companies that don't have necessarily relationships with organizations like ours that can have access to landfills or other disposal sites, but they need to dispose of their commercial waste because they are required to by the Environmental Protection Agency and other environmental organizations. The role I play with Mighty Underdogs is today I'm the host of our podcast, and I will be responsible going forward for all of our communications to our external facing customers and our stakeholders. And so that's the role that I'm going to be taking on, as well as being a coach with Mark and with others in order to be able to support our clients. So that's where we are. But what I'd like to do is to engage us in the conversation so that you know who the Mighty Underdogs organization is and what it is that we're about. So let's start talking about what is a Mighty Underdog. Okay, Donna, start with your question.
I think as listening to everybody in our group, I think there's some more deeper information that we can add. We're not startups. None of us here are startups. So I think if we added how long we've been doing what we're doing, and if you have more companies, like I have IBD Realty that I've been doing for 22 years. The Leaders Laboratory, it went through a brand change that Tom helped me with. We were International Business Development Corporation, started in 1987. We did a brand change in 2012 and have been moving on with that. Started Mighty Underdogs and IBD Realty that I do manage properties. So, and I know Armando, I was looking at you. I thought, well, none of us are new. And you have a couple of companies. So if each of us go through real quick and just say how long you've been doing what you're doing, and your businesses are not startups. Armando.
Okay. Well, okay. So we started Marvel Earth Management in 2019, but I've had a number of companies. I started and purchased a Ford supplier called Cadena and ran that for 5 years. It was actually an acquisition. And Ford was our primary customer. And we also acquired federal government contract as a result of that. And so, again, we have been in business for a very long time. And one of the benefits of being a supplier and actually having been a corporate person prior to that is that we understand the dynamics between the corporate customer and the relationship of the supplier to the customer. And so this is how we actually help our clients, our Mighty Underdog clients, help to navigate them through the B2B space. And we also provide them with information about what it is the customer actually wants so they can succeed in a supply chain that is in the process of turmoil right now, but you still can be successful in the process of change.
And Tom, when did we meet? Where were you?
Well, I've been at this since 2012 when I left a managerial position at an agency, a creative agency, and it's been various incarnations and iterations, but still have some of the clients I walked out with on June 1st, 2012. So we're going on 10 years for me. And you mentioned a compulsive entrepreneur. I call myself a portfolio entrepreneur because I have, in addition to this being my main job, I've got a couple of other side hustles. So I have a training and membership community for people who are looking to learn how to use LinkedIn to grow their business. That's called the Thought Leader Collaborative. That's been up and running for about 1.5 years. And I also have another podcast that I do professionally that's cash flow positive, starting last year. Yay. So I turned a side hustle into, and actually it was more than a side hustle. It was just a hobby. Turned that into a side hustle. And so now that's a business as well. And of course, I have other irons in the fire as well, but I think once you get going, you never really stop, God willing. So that's my story. Mark, what about you?
Yeah, Tom, I'll tell you, it's funny. And Donna, right to the point, I think that is important. Been doing this stuff for now 30 years. And I'm absolutely, you stand back and you look back, you go, oh my God, it was, 30 years already. And it's the same thing. My focus has always been the white sheet of paper to the first dollar of revenue, and then beyond. But it just seems like over the 30 years, I've been involved in a lot of new startup companies that we've gotten them up and gotten them running, and then some, over a 15-year period that I've been involved in transportation. Then I got involved in startup of mobile dentistry. Literally $1 million piece of equipment that when we showed up on site and set those jacks down, we were a state-of-the-art dental office. There's nothing that we couldn't do on that bus, from digital x-rays to doing dentures. And now I'm into, like Donna, I'm into real estate. I've got the Care Patrol, which helps the seniors in transition. A lot of new startup, and that's what I really love to do. I'm really enthused by that, and getting success. And that's when we turn back around to now what we're also doing with Mighty Underdogs. It's just bringing that skill stack and bringing it into an environment where, you can not only do what you're doing, but you can really have the joy of seeing other people around you be successful, and thinking that maybe you're going to be just a small part of it. How about you, Luisa?
Luisa, you're muted.
Yeah. So as you're all talking, I'm going, wow, let me go back. So, as entrepreneurs, if we really dig deep far enough, we realize we were actually born with this inside of us. We just didn't know it, right? So, fortunately or unfortunately, our culture, says take the safety route. So even as a young child, I remember starting several MLMs, if you will, just to do my own thing. But of course, the voice in the back that says, oh, get a job and get a paycheck and do that. So that's what I did. I got a job and I was getting a paycheck. But all along the way, of course, I invested in real estate. So I too don't have quite the portfolio Donna has, but have enough that keeps me going, as well as starting an ice cream shop in my early teenage years. Ran that for a little bit and learned a lot from that. Now, during all this time, of course, I'm working full time because that W-2, that security was always the thing to do, until I got fired. And then I got fired and said, I am done with this. So as an adult, I realized, okay, now where's the safety and security? Took that all off the table, right? So I have to say, I wish there was a Mighty Underdogs group, because I think had I had a team behind me to support me, to get me through those peaks and valleys, to confirm and reassure that it would be okay, and you will be okay, and you will make it. And that's probably why, coaching and leadership is the path that I've taken, because with that, I know that I would have been further faster than I am today. But that's okay, because we're on the path we're supposed to be, and we are where we are supposed to be today for a reason. And again, Mighty Underdogs, wish I had them, but now I'm here for those of you that are walking the path that I did to be successful.
And Luisa, an observation I was making as everyone was going around, just like Donna was observing, is that it's relevant how we all met. We've all coached small business owners. Mm-hmm. We've all consulted with small business owners. We've mentored small business owners. For whatever reason, we are inclined to impart whatever skills and experiences we've had onto others. And the way we all met, not all of us, but the way that all of us came together as a unit was by volunteering our time to mentor small business owners with nothing in return other than the satisfaction that we were paying it forward.
Yeah, that giver's gain mentality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you know what, Tom, that was your takeaway from what Luisa said. And when she was starting to talk about her youth, I went back. I actually did have one more business that I had that it's like, I just remembered back in second grade, my mom had gotten me these, they were like wild birds. They were like these rubber molds that you pour plaster of Paris into. And when it dried, you could peel out of the mold, and you could then paint these various plaster of Paris birds. My mom thought she was doing a good, that I would find my own diversion. I was making them production style, taking them to school and selling them to
So-
people for Christmas presents. It's like, so when you say that it's compulsive, I guess that crap was in my head from from out of the even before I knew what the hell it was.
Yes.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah. So I want to go back to Tom's point because, I used to run a chamber of commerce as part of my career. And what was interesting about that is that entrepreneurs really didn't know where to go for assistance. And they only came to the chamber really at the point where they were in a crisis. And that's not really the best time to look for support. And so what I discovered is that entrepreneurs are typically very lonely people. They don't feel they have anyone to talk to. They don't know where the resources are. They don't know that there's the availability of experienced guidance. It's not going to cost them an arm and a leg. They don't have to consult with a lawyer. They don't have to consult with an accountant. There are people who are experienced, who are willing and have the desire to give back to the small business community to help them avoid some of those issues that we all have run into. But entrepreneurs don't easily ask for help. And so what we here at Mighty Underdogs want to do is to let the entrepreneur know that they are not alone and that there are people who are willing to help them and to help them succeed. Because really, at the end of the day, our economy, our nation thrives when the entrepreneurship and the small business community thrives, as we learned through COVID.
Right. And Donna, question for you, because I think we just described us as the Mighty Underdogs, but this whole vision kind of came out of your observation on what a mighty underdog is. You identified a segment of the small business community that tends to go overlooked and underestimated. I like that expression, overlooked and underestimated. So why don't you lead us off in discussing what is the Mighty Underdogs who are watching this? What makes a mighty underdog?
What makes a mighty underdog? Good question, Tom. What I've looked at, I mean, we have Nike was an underdog, Amazon was an underdog, Ben and Jerry's was an underdog, Facebook was an underdog. They're companies that people didn't believe in at the beginning, and they struggled for 10 years to make a profit. Tesla is still an underdog, and they've been at it for quite some time. Even the owners and founders of those companies that I just mentioned were viewed as disruptors. They don't know what they're doing. They're deviant. They left the safety that Luisa referred to. And so, we had so many non-believers in these individuals that they just kept at it, and they kept going, and they eventually got some investors. And when I talk to angel investors, I ask, why is there so much money for startups? I mean, billions of dollars to startups. And a startup is only good for 3 to 5 years. And after that, what happens? And our numbers that are out there, we have 41 million companies listed with the IRS. And 98% of those people have less than 10 employees. 98% have less than 10 employees. Who's serving those people? I know there's some agencies out there that say they are, but they're really flooded with startups because the startups, there's so much energy behind the startup. And when I talk to the startups, what are you doing? The startup agencies, what are you doing for existing businesses? And they say, well, we just don't have time for the existing businesses. And the existing businesses are supposed to be able to fund themselves. Well, they can fund themselves, but to do what? What tools do we have? Who's helping them? Who's teaching them? And then they say, oh, there's the Tony Robbins. Oh, there's the big consulting houses. Well, gee, yeah, if I had that money, I'd go there too, but they don't have the money either. So there's this gap between the big house, the big training consulting houses that will help them, the book publishers that are all pushing that and think that'll make you rich. And then there's the ton of billions of money put into startups. So I'm not a startup anymore, but I certainly need some help. And we all ran into that. We're not startups anymore, so we don't what? We don't qualify for anything. We don't look like anything. We don't need help. We think we know everything. We know nothing. So how can we, I know all of us are experienced, so we all had talked about, how can we take some of the tools and some of the knowledge that we have and share it with existing businesses? Because we have seen the hardships of growth. Growing is very hard and it's very difficult. Business is easy, and Tom brings that up. Business is easy, business is simple, business is very simple. But it's the people, which are employees, and our customers that make it really difficult to be successful. And there's again, the agencies think they're helping, but they really get in the way. So how do we help each other grow? Because this is our community. We're the only ones that are going to help ourselves. And we saw that with the pandemic. Who helped the small restaurants and the small mom and pop shops? And some consultants say, oh, those are lifestyle businesses. They aren't going to go anywhere. Well, they're not meant to go anywhere. They're meant to provide jobs for lots of people. And we do. So how do we help make that happen and make that a possibility for people? We have quick tools. You don't need to pay $50,000 to get some of these tools. They're really inexpensive. They're one pagers. They're simple tools. And then we can even talk to you and show you how to use them. It doesn't take very long. Let's just get it moving. And they'll be fine. And I think each of you had heard the same story and felt the same feelings and asked, how can I help? What can we do? So then, Tom, you came with the idea of a membership activity. And so now the rest of us are trying to figure out, okay, what's that? How do we do that? How do we make that work? What do we put in it so that it has value to people?
Yeah, Luisa, I'm curious. Like Donna said, I've noticed that there's all this energy around startups, tons of incubators and nonprofits, and startups are like the darlings. And then once you get maybe 10 years into a business and they're approaching second stage, all of the consultants come in and they want to talk to the second stage companies because they know there's all sorts of chaos. There's enough of a nest egg now that, like Donna said, that there's somebody willing to pay to solve these pain points and they have the money to do it. But we work with those companies in between. Those are the overlooked ones. Those are the mighty underdogs. So what do you see as some of the commonalities of a mighty underdog? What are some of the pains and the aspirations of that type of company, and how are we going to help them?
Yeah, well, those are, as Donna was saying, the people, right? So you create complexity the more people that you have. And as a small business owners, as you start growing, you're just throwing people at certain tasks and jobs that need to be done because they just need to be done, right? But there's no opportunity or time to really sit back and think through, am I doing this right? Am I creating the right environment? Am I providing the right tools and resources for these individuals? And that's what really intrigued me with putting us together with Mighty Underdogs, because it's a platform where you can come to and get those tools. As Donna said earlier, we simplify it so that you can go ahead and start the foundation on the right path. As small business owners, you're always growing. There's always a new startup, if you will, internally, whether it's a new product or a new service or anything that you're adding to your business. So yeah, that's what I'm seeing, is just the complexity. And then we won't even get into the phase of, exiting or succession planning, all those things that people don't even think about. I mean, there is just so much. The list is endless. And we don't expect you to know everything. We didn't know everything. But I will tell you the value when you can find that one place to go to ask that question, be vulnerable, because that's what we are right now. Provide, make life easy for you.
Tom, I got to jump in because I heard, with what Donna had to say and then with Luisa, but as the transition was handing from one to the other, something occurred to me as the startups and then the larger corporations, the top tier, if you will, the cream, the cream has the money, like Donna said, that they can spend on this expensive, if you will, bells and whistles of all the different consulting and development and whatnot. And then, but at the startup end, and when something really struck me, just listening to Donna, is that accountability is a word that really, really jumped into my head. I don't want to be hurtful or hard on anybody, but when you're working with startup, particularly from a guidance standpoint, your accountability is only to levels, did they start? And if they did, well, then you can claim success. When you're working with the people in the segment that we're working in, who are really out there in the real world, and they've taken a couple of hits to the face, and they're bleeding, and the fight is real. You have to be able to reach out and touch people in a way that is, for lack of a better term, no bullshit, because they're going to see it real quick. And when they come to you, as we project with the Mighty Underdogs, and you start selling them a line that doesn't have an end result for them that they can measure and that they can see how they can get to and how it's going to benefit them, they see that really, really quick. And that's one of the things I'm probably most proud of being in association with the Mighty Underdogs, is accountability. I think that when people come in and around the Mighty Underdogs organization, they're going to seek accountability, and they're going to be surrounded by people who appreciate that, because they expect it also.
Armando, you want to close this up?
Sure. Well, one of the things I'd like to say is that, we are a community, and the fact is that we learn from each other. And so we have what we call CEO roundtables, and I think we're going to change that, because the CEO title seems to be a little off-putting for founders and small business owners. But when you sit in a room with people who have taken that same journey and are on the same journey that you are, what you get is you actually are more willing to learn from all of your peers, as opposed to an expert, a talking head that's just going to talk at you. Because what you want to do is we want you to be involved in the community that is very supportive of you, supportive of your growth, supportive of your success, and is willing to take you with your vulnerability and uplift you and move you forward. So this is what we are with Mighty Underdogs. We are a community of experienced business people already in business, still working in the business, bringing the most relevant, the most current information, and a willingness to support this segment of the community that frankly is overlooked and underserved. So we have time for some final comments. Anyone want to make a final? Donna, Luisa, Tom, Mark?
Yeah, I just want to say that, even during these times, these are times when people would say, what are you doing? Why are you starting something new? And here we are, a time of challenges and crises and situations. And we are here to say, yes, if it's in your heart and it's a dream, start it. We are here for those of you who want to pivot, for those that are struggling during these times. See the Mighty Underdogs. We're here to serve you.
So, ladies and gentlemen,
I'll just
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to point out that this podcast is one of those ways. So this podcast will come periodically. We're going to cover topics on a range of topics relevant to small business owners. Could be anything from marketing to work-life balance is something that we're talking about this week. Accounting, acquisition. It just could be literally anything. So follow the podcast, subscribe, and this is all free content, and it's your gateway into understanding what Mighty Underdogs is all about.
Absolutely. Well said. Well, thank you very much to the Mighty Underdogs, and thank you to our audience. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you and hearing from you soon.